I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. We'll start by granting permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting. Is there anyone else planning to record tonight's meeting? Okay, one item under Chairman's Update. We are days away from Westwood Day, which is so exciting. The forecast is beautiful. We have an update regarding the scheduling of the football game. It will actually take place at 3 p.m. on Saturday, September 21st. So immediately following the Westwood Day festivities on the high school campus, you can move over to Flay Field and take in a football game on a beautiful day. So we're glad that that's been rescheduled to be held on Saturday. There will not be fireworks this year, unfortunately, but everything else is going off just fine. Volunteers are still welcome, and you can go to the town's main webpage and link through to, I guess it will take you to www.westwoodday.com, and that's where you can sign up to volunteer. So I'm sure volunteers will be welcome right up until Friday for sign up, I would think. And this doesn't happen if it didn't have a lot of volunteers helping us out. Okay, on to scheduled action. Our first item on the agenda is a one-day license. This is become standard operating procedures for us. The Mercedes-Benz of Westwood and Audi Westwood would like to have a special one-day alcohol license for wine and malt beverage. This is going to Prime Motor Group, who owns both dealerships. The event is their annual Oktoberfest, to be held on Thursday, October 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. with Sky out of Norwood serving as the caterer. And we have Nora Loughnane here. Nora, is there anything else particular to this request?
No, I don't know. Is Lori?
No, she's not
She's
here.
not making it. No, everything is the same as they've done in the past. It's
Okay.
at 2 locations at the same time. They don't expect more than 50 people at any one time at either location. They have appropriate parking. They have police details in line. Sky has catered all of their events, and
Right.
we've never had a problem with it.
That's great. And this is an invitation-only event.
Yes.
I want to make note of that. Are there any other approvals that are pending?
No, not on this, no.
Okay. Any discussion or questions?
No.
Public comment on this? Okay. Motion?
I move that we approve a special one-day wine and malt beverage license for Audi of Westwood and Mercedes-Benz of Westwood for their October open house, which is scheduled for Thursday, October 17th from 3 to 10 p.m., which will include time to set up and clean up.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, that is fine, and we hope they have another successful evening. Next up, we have another CV license request. So in this case, hello. Thank you for joining us. Young Chen, Inc., doing business as Westwood Jade for a new CV license at the restaurant location located at 220 Providence Highway. This is coming before us because there is a new owner. You're the new owners?
I'm the new
New owner, great,
Mr.
congratulations.
Chan, and I represent Mr. Chan at the corporation. My name is Mei Hui Hu. Good evening.
Thank you for
Good evening.
joining us. So the restaurant is going to operate as it has in the past, same business model, and it's Cantonese and Szechuan cuisine. And let's see, the application is for a 1,000 square foot restaurant with 10 seats and will operate during the following hours, Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., and on Sunday from noon until 10 p.m. We've been told all forms and documents have been submitted to the licensing division. Jared Orsini, our health director, has met with the new owner and signed off on the CV application and his common victualer's license. And that food permit will be released pending our approval tonight.
Correct.
Anything else, Nora?
We had a building permit inspection of the facility last Thursday, and it passed, and the fire sign-off was just tonight. So they're all set to go. If you grant the CV license, they'll have their food permit tomorrow.
Any questions from the board? This seems pretty straightforward. Have you operated restaurant previously?
以前有没有开过餐馆？
Yes, yes. I have done in South Africa. I moved in from South Africa.
South Africa.
I live in South Africa 20 years.
Well, welcome
Well,
to
believe it
Westwood,
or not,
Massachusetts.
I've learned that the menu, the Chinese
Yes.
takeout restaurant menu in South Africa is pretty similar to what we have here.
Interesting.
You are a long way from that home.
I hope to bring some news to this town.
Good,
Must be a
good,
killer
that's
on
great.
takeout.
Do you have any questions?
No, I don't, no.
Okay.
All right, I move that we approve a CV license for Young Chen, Inc., doing business as Westwood Jade Restaurant, located at 220 Providence Highway. I know everything's been signed off, so we don't need any contingencies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. So, again,
luck.
welcome to Westwood.
Thank you very much.
I hope you have a very successful time here, and good luck with the restaurant.
I will.
And thank you for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Chris, we have a pole relocation request. This comes to us for a residential property. Homeowner looking to relocate a pole, utility pole, at the same address, 142 Ellis Street. It's just a matter of moving the existing pole approximately 20 feet. Does that
Yes.
sound right? And this is to accommodate a driveway widening
Yes.
at the house. And I guess the driveway widening maybe has occurred? It reads as if it's been in the works. I'm not
I
sure.
think it's in the works, but I don't think it's fully
Okay.
occurred.
And,
No, it hasn't occurred yet, no.
Because there's a
Okay.
pole
but
in the way.
will be a challenge unless the pole is relocated. Are there any issues as far as you're concerned as representative from Eversource?
No,
No
it's pretty
concerns?
straightforward, yeah.
Do you get these requests often?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yep.
They just happen to be in the wrong place when somebody's doing something on their property?
Right, right. No, not a lot. I mean, we do
Yeah.
get them, but not,
Right.
a real lot,
Well, when homes are
Usually when there's
improved
new
or something.
construction going on,
Yeah.
you know.
Questions from the board?
So I have some questions, maybe Nora can help. When a private homeowner constructs a home in Westwood today and puts a pole on their property, that does not come before us.
Correct. It only comes before you if it's in the public right of way.
But this is not. This is a private pole being relocated to a different place on private property.
No,
This is on private property.
it's in the
No,
right of way.
It's in the right of way.
Oh, this is in the right of way and he's
Yes.
moving it onto his property.
No,
No.
it's staying within the
right
right
Oh,
of
it's
way.
staying
of
within
the
the right of
same
way,
house.
But it's
okay.
in
I
front
read
of
it.
his house.
Place in
Just to-
front
yeah.
of his
Okay,
property.
I thought
Yeah.
it was going onto the
Yeah,
private
just
property.
off to the
Okay.
right, yeah.
And then my other question was, it says at the end that there will be cutting of some streets.
Could be some
Well,
underground.
there's driveway.
I think there was a talk about some underground.
It's for the driveway to expand.
But what streets?
Just Ellis.
Are they under more, well, it says streets.
I'm not sure what permit,
And to maintain layout in the intersecting public ways. I just want to know if any of those roads are under moratorium.
no, we're not doing anything like within the street. It's, the pole's already existing within the right of way. It's in a grassed area alongside the driveway, and it's being relocated approximately 20 feet over to the right. Still, we're going to remain within that grassy dirt.
Yeah, I don't have a
area.
problem with the pole. I actually, I had thought it was on a private way, but I would like to know if we're cutting these roads.
No,
It's not you cutting them, or?
Are you saying there's no road
There's going to be
cutting?
no road cutting?
no, there's no road cutting. It's
Okay.
just relocating the pole only.
Okay. So if the action is just to relocate the pole, I'm fine.
Great.
Yeah, I think the curb cut was for the driveway to expand, and that's just part of the original application,
But not moving in
but not part of
I would just, on
Eversource
the
moving it.
motion, I would just reference the pole.
Okay, let's see, pull up the motion. Okay, I move that we approve and sign the petition for 142 Ellis Street, Westwood, as presented by N-Star Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy and Verizon, to a grant of location to relocate pole number 56/24.
And then it should end.
Well, I
I'm
think they
sorry.
need permission to lay and maintain underground
Counsel?
laterals.
Do you see the motion that's been drafted for us? It allows, it provides to give permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables and wires in the above or
Oh, okay.
intersecting public ways. Is that what you're referring to, John, in the public ways
Okay.
discussion?
Right. If there's going to be a cutting, I think we need to be
I'm
clear.
not sure that that means there's a cutting.
Selectmen approve the sign of petition Westwood obtained.
Okay, I'm
File a
sorry, I didn't
petition.
realize it yet. Yeah, that would be an underground lateral to also install the secondary service underground to the house. But it would be behind the pole.
So you're not
Right.
cutting the public way there?
No.
Well, it's not in the roadway, it's behind the pole, which is very close to the private property.
I think Selectman Hickey's concern is that it might be actually disturbing the road structure
No.
itself.
No,
And
it's
that's-
not going
that's
to
It
the
wouldn't be
question.
going across the street to the,
No.
You're not cutting
it's-
across the street?
No, right there at the same side of the street,
Okay.
just an underground lateral.
We've required others to bond the road when we've allowed these cuts, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
For the record, I'm not sure Ellis is a street that's under moratorium right now.
Yeah, I would think it's
Uh,
not, but
It's been a
there's
while
another
since
part
I've
to that
been.
motion.
Okay,
Do you wanna
and to
expand?
allow for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or the intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings.
Second.
How about, can I just
Oh,
ask for an amendment with the understanding that there is no disruption to the
Street, right.
roadway itself? Just
So
so,
amended.
if there is, you've got to come back,
Right.
okay?
So amended.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Just want to, you're clear, that's what we want, but if
Right.
there are any surprises,
Yeah,
please
we'll
come
be
back to
back.
us.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
for
Chris.
coming in, Chris. Okay, Amoresco, solar panel phase 2. Gentlemen? Oh, you know what?
Yeah, you're skipping the chief.
I skipped over something, I'm sorry. Both are important. No, I'm going to go in the order of what's on the agenda. Thank you. I just skipped over when I clicked onto it. Chief Deckers, we have a lot of important information from you this evening regarding the main fire station, what we and you often refer to as FS1.
One, correct.
And by way of background, this has long been on the town's collective vision into the future as needing attention. And we've gone through a couple of modest capital requests over the past few years, most recently the current fiscal year that we're working through, to provide some resources to address some temporary fixes to the station, acknowledging, and you have in your materials to us, that there's an important school building project that is drawing a lot of attention by the town, and we do not wish to have competing projects and have people feel the need to choose one or the other.
Yep.
And you're graciously acknowledging that that means some things still have to be done, but we're not going to look at what the long-term solution is to the station. We're looking at short-term, intermediate-term solutions. So that's just by way of background. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can highlight why you're here tonight and what you need from us.
Sure. So basically, as you saw from my material that I gave you, is we are basically in full swing of trying to reallocate some additional administrative office space, create some record retention and EMS storage that's now mandated that we carry more. And one of our big things is we need to really watch the expense side of our inventory, because things expire quickly and it's a very large cost to the fire department and the town.
Give an example of what type of inventory things you're talking about.
Any type of EMS supply, so it could be anything from a laryngoscope blades, those could expire, even though they're still in their package, they still have a date on them. And if they have a date on it and they expire, we can't use it. So when we start looking at that turnover last year, when we ran across this, it cost us almost $10,000 to replace a whole bunch of expired material. So I started putting at that time a FIFO situation, first in, first out. Now I need someplace to store it all, because now it's all in boxes and it's just not organized at all. You can't take a quick look at it. So we're trying to be effective and efficient at the same time and do it within the space that we have. And then we also promoted, thankfully, with your support, an EMS coordinator who's running that part of the show, and a training officer. And right now, they're working down in a basement that's part of a gym, that's, inside the garage. And so there's just a lot of moving parts there. So we're trying to make it look professional. And we have to make some space upstairs because the building, we've overgrown ourselves. It's been great that we've put on more staff, but we've overgrown the space. So I need some place where I can move the support operations so that they actually look professional, opposed to having boxes and stacks. And so when we have people visit, we're trying to find space for contractors to lay out plans and all that. And we just, in my opinion, I think we look very unprofessional, and it just doesn't give us that good first impression of what we want them to think about the fire department when they're there. So in keeping with the concept that we can't replace the building, we need just to make the building usable for us at this time. So that's why we requested the capital investment for this year. And when I really started digging into that, I came across some ideas of trying to maximize the space, because we're doing a lot of training because of some other things that came on that we had to make sure our training was up to speed, but we have to find other locations in town to do it. When we do that, we have to travel as packs, because I have to bring all the engines. I have, to make sure that we can respond, because we can't leave that place driving our cars back to the,
Yeah.
we don't want that, we don't want to reduce it. So I sort of made the town administrator have to walk, I think it was down the hill and around over Carby Street the other day when he went down for a meeting, because all of our firefighters were there, plus the apparatus. We had taken up all the space, and he couldn't find a parking space nearby the building, so we had to, and we're doing that for the public too, and that's not really fair. So my goal was, if I can leave those apparatus at the station and refit the basement back into its classroom, that would be perfect. Well, when I started looking at building out that space, we were gonna get rid of the classroom altogether. But I came across this great idea of using what's called the flex office space. So it's gonna be 4 basic offices that is in almost like a trailer like we had at Station 2, but looks much more professional. It's right to the ground, so it's not on wheels. And basically, it's very flexible in the sense, hence the term, that down the road, when we decide we're gonna do something different with the station, I can actually move that on the property to another location and make it versatile, where if we build out the basement and we decide to renovate the whole place, we've wasted that money. So what I'm hoping tonight is, because I was sort of, when we requested the money, heading down one path. I just want to make sure from the 3 of you that I'm on the right path. And with that, when I get on that path, we will come back to you to support that building, for the next couple of years while we wait our turn and figure out what the true replacement or repair of FS1 is going to look like.
And you're talking about supporting the main station, the building, doing some other,
Correct. And,
Intermediate
because we're going to
steps.
enter into a 2-year lease that can be
Sure.
renewed and renewed and renewed, so that we're not going into a long-term lease.
okay?
Because with the shorter-term lease, if something were to change, we can easily make a change. Where if we're into a long-term lease, then we're stuck.
You provided a picture of what the modular type
Right.
thing would look like. Is that,
That's
the
That's
product?
that's the actual product itself.
So it's like
and-
putting down a little office building, but it's
And it's modular.
modular, so it can be,
So if we
brought
needed
in
to
and
add another
removed.
one, we
Yep.
just add another pod right to it, and
okay.
and we move
And it
forward.
comes fitted out?
That's an option.
I see.
You're already at 45 a year.
Yeah,
No more options.
yeah, so that's why I said that. I got.
It's a
plenty
lot of money for
I
a
got-
modular.
I got plenty of desks and the such to move in there. So it's,
But does it have walls? Does it get divided?
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay, that's what I
currently
need.
it's configured to have a conference room and 3 offices and a bathroom. So it's fully operational. It will be just tied right into the building. And it will allow us now the flexibility to create that storage space and that classroom too. So we'll hit all of the items, as I pointed out in my notes to you, of what we really need operationally to make this place. And we've also been making changes where we're looking at flip-flopping the staffing to put less demand on that building, to get more time out of that building. Even though it's
I
hit
see.
its end of life, we're trying to get a few more years out of it, to put us in a better position down the road, So we're looking at how we operationally work things. We started a test yesterday where our ambulance, our main ambulance, is actually running out of Station 2 now during our peak level staffing. And then at 3 o'clock, it comes back when our staffing starts to drop down. So, you know, with the peak level staffing, we staff appropriately to demand. So once the demand drops, then we shift the personnel again. And then we've also moved the big ladder truck off of the floor here, because the difference between the big ladder truck and the little ladder truck at 77 feet to 100 feet, but is 36,000 pounds roughly. So by shedding that, and we're doing a study on it just to make sure that it was the
Where
right
is the big
move.
ladder truck over
At
to?
Station 2.
Yeah.
And that's on flat ground,
Yeah.
so we don't have to worry about it. But what I didn't want to do is come into the firehouse and see the big ladder truck in the basement, because that's not where we want it. And then the engineers came out and said we needed to re-support, more supporting in the basement, which would have negated entire use of that basement. And we're waiting for the final report. That should be done shortly. But I would invite all three of you, when you have an opportunity in your schedule, maybe after that report is done and you've had a chance to review it, to come and visit the station, and I'll go through the station and the report with you, so you get a real picture of what's going on, why we're making these changes.
It's been a while since I've been in it, but boy, I remember, what do we say, Pat? 20 years ago, meetings were held there. That's what planning board used to meet.
That's what I was told the other day.
That's where FinCom met. That's where everybody met
FinCom, yeah, it was
back in the day.
tough space.
We would love to get back to a point where people can meet there again,
Yeah.
especially ourselves.
Well,
We
one
don't
thing I
have to-
remember
As
were
I
the
re- as-
poles right in the middle of the,
There is, it's
of the
not
room.
friendly.
As I recall, in the months of January, February, and March, it also wasn't that warm in meetings in there.
It's not.
It's an old building.
It absolutely
Think of it
is.
this way, your memory of 20 years ago is probably flattering compared to what you're going to find here today.
Well,
if
and
you
I've
go
been in
there.
it more recently. I know the bunking quarters was pretty primitive, and I think you even mentioned in your materials that there's mold issues.
Yes, we have mold issues
Not
and water
surprised.
leaking, and,
Yeah.
which we've done a good job at, suppressing some of that. But, the age of the building is showing itself. But we'll
So-
get through until we
So
can.
tonight, we really don't have to do anything as much as we understand how you're planning to use the funds that have already been allocated, right? You want to be able,
I wanna
you
make
want
sure-
to proceed with
yeah.
doing
You
that flex
You
space.
need to approve
One or two,
the
right?
use of those funds because they weren't quite allocated for that purpose, so they could be extended
I
to
don't know.
include
I
that
don't know
purpose,
that
but
that's
it'd
the
take a Board of
case, Mike.
Selectmen vote.
You have the,
Well, the advice
the-
we're getting from finance is that
so capital request description, this is what went through last year, the form. The first one says creation of additional administrative office space was the number one thing on there. Isn't that what we're talking about?
well, it was to use the additional, there was another source of money.
Well, and that was a source of money that we talked about, the FY15 fall meeting developed and granted use of a study for the renovation study. It was that money that we wanted to be able to earmark towards some of the other things we need to do, because to prep this building for its space, I need to go in front of the planning committee, conservation, planning board, conservation, to get that. Well, there's no plot plan for that site. So we have to develop a plot plan, I have to do the impact studies, I have to do the environmental, all of that. So I'd like to be able to utilize that capital money for that one, for sure, and then utilize the money that was granted here as part of the setup in the first year rent and lease on it, and then use what's left over to try to get rid of some of that mold and other items.
So I hear that. I just want to make sure we do things right here. And I think I'm a little bit confused right now as to.
Okay, so there was an appropriation made in 2015.
I know, but what are we talking about? First, we have to amend that and not amend,
What you have to
but
do
clarify.
is authorize the chief to utilize that money to do a planning study that would prepare the applications that would be application and plans that would be submitted to the Planning Board and Conservation Commission for the permitting of the work that he's now planning to do.
So, okay, so that's just on page 19, we have proposed action. The first one is select one of the two options. I think it's premature to select you're doing a study, you want us to come in and, well, the flex space is part of the
Well-
second option, isn't it?
I would love for you to be able to say, hey, let's head down that road right now, opposed to building out, because to build out that space to get what we're trying to do here is, one is we won't get the classrooms or the EMS storage, but
Which
we'll get
doesn't
the
make sense.
offices, and it's almost anywhere from 175,000 to 2.25. And when
For
we,
a build-out in the
just
building
to build out inside
versus
the building.
45 a
That we
year
could
on the
lose.
temporary space. Right, we shouldn't put much more money into that building.
No.
No,
it-
and that's what I
it'd
was
be such
thinking, you're
short term.
right, but I wanted to make sure that you three were
Yeah, I
on
mean,
the
I'm
same
fine with the
page.
portable, but I'm fine for like 2 years.
Yeah,
It's a lot of money for temporary space.
right.
Well, but it could be useful for us if there is a renovation or something done to the main building.
Right, but just to get it, and then we're 3 years down the road, still having this conversation, I think we need to start making a plan. Give you authority to go forward, it's $90,000. And start talking about the long-term plan.
Look at a long-term plan to whatever we're gonna do with that building.
It's just not, I mean, we want everybody to have a good quality of life in there and be safe, but it's just hard to put money into that building.
Absolutely.
Its useful life is over.
Right.
Chief, this building's only 800 square feet from what I can tell? 40 by 20?
Yeah, 40 by 20. So it's 3 small offices that are like 8 by 12, and then a conference room, and then a small bathroom, and then there's a front foyer area that we can utilize also for.
So I wish we had something in a chart form here. So how much is left over from FY '15?
39,847.
And very specifically, you want to do what with that?
I want to utilize that money to create the plot plan or site plan so that I can go forward in front of the planning board,
Yeah.
show them exactly what everything, along with the impact
Originally,
study.
that money had been designated to do study.
It was a renovation study.
Okay, so it's under, kind of in
Oh.
keeping with that, but a little
I-
specific underneath
It
that,
sounds
right?
like it's okay. I'd like a chance to review the specific approval from town meeting in 2015 to make sure.
I'm wondering, and I don't think you're getting any opposition from us in what you're
Right.
proposing, if we should bring this back Monday night to allow you to do that, or what do you think we can do tonight?
You can vote it contingent upon.
Your review?
My review, yes.
Finance has already looked at it, and they've indicated that if the board votes to do this, they would be.
Why don't we do it contingent upon your review? You can come back to us Monday night and just tell us that you've completed the review,
Correct.
all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got FY '15. You want to do that to create plot plan and related land use. Why don't we call
Utilize
that?
the money for the true study of the area and development of whatever product needs to go in front of the boards, so that we do it right. And that will be able to be utilized downstream when we do the full renovations of the
And
building.
then, we've already done the 250,000 town meeting approval.
Right.
And have you spent any of that yet?
A small portion of it has been spent, so we started replacing some of the electrical panels
so
and doing
you-
work like that.
What John was just saying, you want to be able to utilize a portion of that for lease payments for this flex
Correct.
space.
And the rest of it to do the renovation inside the building.
Inside the
And
building.
I looked at that specific approval before coming over tonight, and I think you're well within the scope of that article to do that.
Okay. We'll still make it a contingent approval tonight for your completed review.
Okay.
But, so these are
Okay.
the two components,
Okay.
essentially.
We're gonna do it
I
as
just
two
want to
or
make sure it's
one?
clear. You can do it as one.
You can
Okay.
do it as one.
All right,
Or whatever your preference is, Selectman Walsh.
thank you. So I move that we approve $39,847 from the 2015 budget to create a plot plan and land use description to be submitted to the town boards for approval for FS1. And that we also allow the chief to use a portion for the flex renovation of the existing space from the 2019 FY budget.
F20.
F20 that was approved at town meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Contingent upon review by town council to make sure that we are within the scope for our 2015 budget.
Okay, you said
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. And we'll still take you up on your offer to come look at the space after you have that study, because I think, thank you. I think seeing the space will help us in articulating the need, both in the intermediate time frame and in the longer term.
Absolutely. Once that report's done, I'll make sure the three of you get the final copy, and then we'll set up times where we can meet.
Terrific, thanks,
I
John.
appreciate it. Thank you for your
Okay, thank-
support.
Yep. All right, now Amoresco. Come on, gentlemen. Sorry for that false start there. Okay, so, I don't know, when were you last in? July? Late July?
Yes.
Okay, so in late July, we had a presentation. Are we getting a presentation again tonight? We are. That gave us an overview of what's being proposed for Phase 2 solar installation project here in Westwood. We had some discussion. You folks went back to do more homework. We've had opportunity, some of us, to see some installations in Natick. And I think you've been talking to people and analyzing, based on our feedback, the situation. So you have a presentation for tonight. Do you want us to ask questions as we go along, or wait till the end? Do you have a preference? Whatever. Okay. And why don't I turn it over to you folks and let you give your presentation.
All right. So
Thanks.
to reintroduce myself, my name is Ryan Aslam. I'm a product development manager at Amoresco. Mike also is an executive vice president within the company. And we've been working hand in hand with Tom for many years now. So a quick refresher on slide 1. Really what we're looking at is to continue the successes of our Phase 1 project with the town. We had 4 sites that totaled 617 kilowatts of generation assets within the town, of which the town of Westwood had to put down no money. Amoresco invested $1.7 million, roughly $1.7 million into these projects. They were at Westwood High School, Martha Jones Elementary, Downey Elementary, and Thurston Middle School. And with this Phase 2, we believe we might multiply that number by 5. We're looking at around $10 million in investment from Amoresco, commitment to the town.
And Tom, what is the long-term strategy? Do we want to get into the retail business? Like, we want to just create so much? What is the strategy?
It actually saves the town money. It offsets.
So get to zero. And where are we now? How close to zero?
We have about, I would say we can replace probably all of Downey, all of Martha Jones, very close to it, and maybe 20% of the high school, and probably 25% probably of Thurston. When we complete this, the biggest piece will be over by Hanlon, where the new school is going to go. And that school, we're taking very seriously of making that a zero-energy school. And the presence of the solar there, of course, will greatly enhance that.
But it feeds into the whole town overall budget, right?
Yes.
It doesn't have to match the building, right?
So actually, our next slide, I believe, shows the financials, yeah. So this is just a very high-level summary of the sites. You'll notice that there's an extra site in there since the last time we were here, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But this is showing roughly $60,000 in minimum year 1 benefit that we anticipate. That year 1 electricity savings is just a penny off the electric bill, but we believe, depending on what queue position we're able to achieve within the solar incentive program within the state of Massachusetts, that we think we can almost quadruple that on some of these sites.
Until we submit and get into the process, we don't know where we're going to fall in the queue. It's all timing.
Right.
First come, first service.
Tranches, and depending on, was it 5 tranches of power?
8.
Depending on where you fall in terms of getting signed in, affects the amount of money you get by way of rebates.
Right, and it's split up by a utility basis. So National Grid, for example, is already at capacity for the whole state. And Eversource is currently in block 3 of 8, but they're anticipating roughly 45,000 kilowatts of applications each month. So time is of the essence.
Okay, so we know we can do, with what's proposed, 60,000 worth of savings.
At a minimum.
Rebates get us
Oh, yeah.
amped up over that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and since we were last here in July, we had two big talking points that we wanted to address, and something else came up, number 2, which is a new project recommendation. Met with Chief Silva of the police department here, and he expressed interest in carport solar PV, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. But the two big things that we wanted to talk about since last time were the aesthetics of the carports, the visual aesthetics, and the concerns over the visual screening at the Shuttleworth Field property. And so for carport aesthetics, I've opened up my schedule to try to provide site walks to all those that were interested. And I shared a Amoresco collection of projects that we've done in the area.
I didn't know about those visits. I went,
Oh, I'd be happy to take you.
okay.
Yeah.
Just, you said you sent them out. I didn't, did you, who did
No,
you?
we were asked if we wanted to.
You
I
were?
just happened, yeah, I just happened to say,
Yeah, it was a while ago.
yeah, at the meeting.
But John, we can take any time you want.
No, it's fine. I don't know if it'll change my opinion, but.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's good
So
to see it.
Natick High School just built them, and that's actually one of the
Pretty
steps.
And we tried to do it at Westwood High, right? And they said no.
We tried to do carports, they didn't want the.
They didn't want the carports, right? We don't have any carports in Westwood today.
There are no carports in Westwood.
Correct.
Well, there were
Station Drive.
on Station Drive at
At Eversource.
Eversource,
But on the Eversource property.
Okay, he meant
on
the-
their property,
Right.
yeah.
I thought he meant the town
We
property.
don't have any.
An operating yard for an electric
Eversource
company.
did a beautiful job, it makes like an entrance when you go in.
Yeah.
So on the screen is just one of the renderings of a local Massachusetts town that we are also installing these for. And these would all be part of the design process. So what we're looking for is guidance to move forward with these projects. And then with your approval, we will continue to visit the necessary stakeholders, both Eversource, town permitting, all of that.
The feedback from the chief in particular, we had a meeting with him a few weeks ago, was, just obviously keeps the cars cool in the summer, keeps the ice off in the winter, which he's concerned. He said he had some, folks getting injured when they're coming out of their car.
Yeah.
And there's no, at least from his perspective, there's no observation really. If there's a concern over the looks, you're not really seeing it from the street. I think he had said that actually in the design of the new police station, that there was gonna be, not he was gonna be putting, he had approval to do some kind of carports back there, not solar, but just regular carports.
I don't remember that, but.
Yeah, this is what he had told me,
Yeah,
honestly,
I
just from our
But at the
discussion.
senior center, you can see these from the street.
You should be able to, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was mentioning just the
Right.
police station.
And-
The only thing you mentioned was that obviously, one of the stakeholders that we'd have to meet with, if you folks want us to look at that, were the neighbors in the back, I believe.
I don't think carports belong in residential neighborhoods in Westwood. I mean, I don't know that I can be more clear. I stated that last time. And you mentioned keeping the cars cool, but there's also a known hazard about snow and ice accumulating on these, and as the structure warms up, falling.
You want to address that? I think you were talking about that, Ryan, when we were out there.
Yeah, so when we were at the Natick site, actually there's a strip of grass in the middle where they are to fall through. And there's also drainage options for a cost adder in these designs.
Cost added to the town.
No, the
No,
town puts no money up.
Yeah, the town's not putting any.
We did this with Partners Healthcare on top of their garage at Assembly Row. I mean, and we did that, we dealt with that with the drainage, otherwise you'd have that come off the top of the roof.
And you've looked at the parking lot at the senior center.
Yes.
You'd have to clear cut all the trees?
No,
No.
no, so I have that right here. There's minimal tree clearing, or tree cutting, trimming.
But you acknowledge a tree couldn't live under one of these.
Of course not.
What was the
So I
question?
counted 13 trees on my way here tonight that are fairly new.
So one of the big things that we do with other projects, if there are trees that we are taking down, we will make an effort to replace them elsewhere within the town or the municipality that we're working in. So
Or on
that's
the
something
site
that we could
somewhere.
easily do.
Yeah, I just think at the senior center, I mean, we are setting up a non-natural lighting transition, right? People driving off of a main road are going to suddenly be in darkness. Exiting, they're going to be in light. We're putting up all these beams that are hazards. This is a site that services a senior center and a tot lot. I mean, I just don't know how we think this is a good idea.
I don't, not to disagree with you, but on the, during the day, you're not, I don't think it's like you're going into a pitch darkness into the light.
Well, I'm looking at your renderings.
Yeah, I don't think, if that's the case, then they're dark. I mean, it's the color coded of it, because if you go visit any of these sites, it's not, you're not going to a dark tunnel.
You'd acknowledge you are interfering with the sight lines, right? Whereas an open parking lot today is safer, now we're gonna put beams that people have to look beyond, predict beyond.
You know, if I can just comment, it was really nice to see, and I actually, is this one of these slides 5? Is that
Yes.
Natick High?
No, this
Or
one's
meant
not.
to be? It's similar.
Yes.
Driving in, it was impressive to me. I was actually taken aback how well it looked. But when you drive in, it's so much higher up than your line of sight when you're in a vehicle. And then walking around, it's still, I think you had said it was 13 and a half feet up, but
Yes.
that was on top
I'm talking
of,
about all the beams.
yeah, no, I mean,
Right, so the beams are still,
they don't obstruct anything,
it's
though.
probably 13 and a half feet of steel going up, and then 1 foot
Yeah,
to 3
it was,
feet of
it
concrete
actually,
bollards.
I just-
it looked
I'm-
pretty good.
It's shocking to me that we're gonna put this on a main road in a residential neighborhood. It's an industrial-looking contraption. I don't know.
Okay.
You have plenty of other locations in Westwood. This is near a historic cemetery. This is on a school campus. The high school wouldn't allow it, and they're behind a building. I don't know why the town is going
They
down
were
this path.
concerned because of the vastness of it, more than they were,
No, I think it was the aesthetics.
it was
I think it was both, Tom.
4 or 5 times what we're talking about for the senior center.
And they're at high schools, as we saw in Natick, and it's
Yeah.
fairly
not
substantial.
Natick.
Why don't you finish your presentation, and I know we have Lena here to speak to the proposed Council on Aging site, but we have others.
I just had a couple
Sure.
quick questions. So what, looking at the diagram, it's kind of tough to tell. What is the span between, if you will, the abutments to go up? You know, how far, what the span is, it 16
verticals.
feet,
Oh.
20 feet?
So it'll
Between-
change, it'll depend on the site layout. With these for the Council of Aging that we're looking at, that's probably, this is 12 feet by 6, so that's probably 40 feet
Okay.
long.
And so how
Or-
many beams would be, in other words,
5 to 40 feet.
you know what I'm asking? In other words, okay, you put one up, how many beams are actually on the,
I don't have that number,
Okay.
but it's roughly like 2 beams or 4 beams per set of 12 wide.
Fair distance
so it's
between
about
them,
20 feet,
ones we
so?
saw.
Yeah, and these designs are just rough designs. We can
Yeah,
really suit it however best suits the stakeholders, whether it's complete coverage, which we know might be a good thing to consider here
Mhm.
as well.
Okay.
And so, talking about complete coverage, that's kind of what the police chief is interested here. So what I'm showing is a potential layout that may work with tree trimming because it is on the south side of the building and there's significant shade as shown from the right photo. The right photo is modeling where the shade of the building would lie and a heat map of the modules. So that is showing complete coverage for all of the police vehicles. And there was interest from the police chief to also add coverage down to that next spot of 7 or 8 parking spots
yeah.
where the detectives park, which we will explore further.
Which would get more of the sun.
Yeah, there's a lot of shade over there, actually.
Yeah.
The other thing the chief asked us to look into is, I don't know if you're gonna hit upon it, is battery storage
Oh,
as
yeah.
part of it for resiliency, which would give them even further resiliency in an outage situation.
Right, and that's something that we'd be willing to look at for any town buildings that might be interested in it. It's essentially the lithium-ion battery in your phone multiplied on a huge scale to charge off the grid at non-peak hours and discharge the battery at peak times to provide some revenue for the town. But then there's also the resilient aspect where you're charging from renewable energy and you're able to use the renewable energy when the grid is down.
In essence, going island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we had mentioned the rooftop of the police station that we're currently under right now. That is also still an option.
Which had been part of the
Original.
Part of the
planning,
original
the
one, yes.
design of the
Yeah.
building to provide for that opportunity.
Yes. And then additionally, the Thurston Middle School, with the roofs now having been replaced since phase one, we'd like to finish our job there and add in almost another 100 kilowatts of solar capacity to their roof. The big talking point that we also wanted to look at was the Shuttleworth Field. So what that image on the right is showing is the elevation line of the parcel, or the elevations of the parcel. And conveniently, the back of the solar array, the top, the most north-facing, or northern, would be on the top of the hill. So that makes it relatively easy for screening purposes. So we'd be adhering to the town bylaws, obviously, of providing year-round continuous, substantially impervious visual screen, maintaining all the trees along the parcel line, and then we also propose a hedgerow of 350 to 400 feet along that back side of the panels, so that way none of the underworkings will be visible from any of the residents. And it shouldn't be visible from their first floors of their home. And that's just one option.
What do you mean by that?
There's other design layouts too that we could look at to better hide the project.
On this one, you definitely have to circle back with the schools every step along
Oh,
the
of
way.
course.
Yeah.
So that there's no potential.
Tear down and rebuild?
Yeah, no, we don't want that.
So
Nobody wants, I know you touched base with them
Yep.
previously, but I just think this is
Yep.
something that
We'd also work with them on trying to create an
measure twice.
educational component. So what we would want to do, and we've done this elsewhere, is where
Mm-hmm.
incorporate into the curriculum for the kids. And they can actually learn how renewable energy is generated. It's almost like a live, living,
Yeah.
learning lab.
Okay.
actually, Amoresco is presenting at Solar Power International, which is going on either this week or next week. We're showing off a solar cart, more or less, that has a solar panel, its own little inverter on it, and that's a neat little educational component that we've started to offer in school districts out of the Amoresco Southwest
That's great.
to get your hands-on education.
Okay.
And so, in summary, we're looking at roughly $60,000 for the town, which, in our estimates, we think it could go up to $175,000, if not more. The larger projects are going to take the longest amount of time to get the necessary approvals within Eversource to get into the smart queue, but we believe the small ones we can act on relatively fast. The issue with carports is there's a long lead time on steel, so we're not looking at construction this
Best
year
news I've
by
heard
any
all
means.
night. Best news I've heard all night.
With the completion of this project and the virtual one we just signed on for the school, and the one we have already, the old one, will be almost pushing 60% overall for the town buildings and solar.
And that's great, Tom. I just think it has a great detriment to put these structures in residential neighborhoods. I think you're
You're talking
destroying the
about
look,
yeah.
you're destroying the look and the character of that area, and you're creating safety hazards. And I think we'll regret it.
It actually is less of a, I mean, you go to Stonehill and there's places, they love it. They've totally covered the parking lots there, and they,
Yeah, it's a
Totally.
college campus.
it's a campus, right, but it's still
You've made your
visible.
point.
Yeah.
You've made your point. Lena, you had asked,
I just want to.
you've
You
got
gotta-
to
you gotta
use
come
the
up to a
microphone.
Yeah.
We can.
It's the
No,
people at
TV
ho-
cannot.
It's the people at home that can't hear you, Lena.
Yeah,
I'm
you
Lena.
actually-
I am the director of the Westwood Council on Aging. Thank you for coming. Tom had come and spoken to the Council on Aging Board way back in May, did a presentation. The board then voted unanimously that they thought the Council on Aging, this would be a great asset. It would save us probably $14,000 a year, which would be terrific. We've also sort of spoken with a lot of the seniors in the building. As you know, I'm constantly talking to them, and they all like the idea. For us, it looks like a great plan. When it's raining, snowing, or any of that, it's almost like a carport. It'll be great in terms of protecting them. I'm not concerned. We abut If you look at it, it's abutting a stadium seating and a baseball field. So to me, the aesthetics, I respect what you have to say, John, seriously, but the aesthetics, I think it'll be fine. And as the director there, we're actually pretty excited about the fact that this could be a possibility.
Thank you.
So, that's all.
All right.
And Lena, could you take on as a task talking to the neighbors?
No, I did not talk to the
No,
neighbors.
could you? Could you take
Absolutely.
that as a takeaway? Okay.
It would be me.
Great.
She doesn't like to talk, John.
Great. No, I think it's great.
Absolutely.
Show them these pictures.
I will.
Yeah.
Well,
How many
and I-
neighbors, do you want me just to, like, go up and down? I mean, like.
Well, I think
we'll
those,
talk
you know,
about it.
I would do
Yeah.
the whole maze.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, there you
absolutely.
go.
And I'd be
You
happy
know
to
me,
take
I'll
them on a
talk,
site
baby.
walk.
I think, well,
Thank you.
Mr. Gillette can coordinate what makes more sense with that, I'm not sure.
Well, I think that there's a permitting process that if this goes forward, Nora, it has to appear before the planning board, and that's the opportunity that the neighborhoods would be invited to see a more detailed plan of what's being
It would be a
planned.
public hearing, and it would have direct notice to about within 300 feet, but a newspaper notice and a notice of the agenda to anyone who's looking for it.
So, and
So
at
there's
that
still many
at
steps
that
along the
point,
way.
and I think I got this right, if at that point the planning board doesn't think that this is in keeping with what the neighborhoods want, they could say, well, we prefer that this part of the project not go forward. We're just, all you're doing is getting authorization to continue to proceed with this proposal going forward. There were elements of the first school project that ended up getting removed, not because there were neighborhood problems, but because there were problems that were encountered when you were in
Structural.
problems, in the process of permitting, right? So
Right.
you're basically just getting authorization to keep going forward. And at any point, aspects of this project could be eliminated.
Of course.
Claire has her hand up.
No, I know.
Oh,
but I haven't-
So is it possible to do an entire carport over the parking lot for the senior center? In other words, right now you have it in pieces, right? 4 pieces? But if you combine 2, so it covers a much larger area for parking and for ice and that type of stuff, is that possible?
So we were actually just talking about that earlier before the meeting started, and that's something that I will email about first thing tomorrow
Okay,
morning.
and one more question. So I assume, and forgive me, I'm going to show my ignorance, I assume these are breakable, so if you're going to put them next to the baseball field, right? What's the likelihood of a foul ball coming down and smashing?
We all know that the
Right.
Westwood baseball players hit straight. Right?
Yeah. They never hit a
That's right,
foul
it's
ball.
the travel teams they're
The travel
worried
teams
about.
that we gotta worry about.
Okay, now that we've
Good call,
clarified
Pat.
that.
Good call, Pat.
We have actually, with the renderings that I sent over, we are building some solar carports adjacent to a baseball field in another town nearby.
Okay.
And? Doesn't answer the question.
Yeah.
How did
Are
they
they
hold
breakable?
up?
We're
Are they
taking the
breakable?
risk.
I mean, you guys going to have to go up and replace them?
You keep in mind that, we're the ones fully
Right.
responsible for that. We own them, and if we're not, if there's an issue like that, then we would have to replace them.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's not generating and we're not selling.
Okay. Just curious.
That's what you have insurance for, right?
But there's a deductible, like everything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Public participation. Claire, did you have a question or comment?
Hi, Claire Galkowski, 320 Dover Road. I'm on the Westwood Environmental Action Committee. Actually, at the moment, I'm not officially appointed, so, but
But a longtime member.
a longtime member, and I could, we did not discuss this specifically at our most recent meeting, but in principle, we certainly are supportive of anything that will reduce our town's carbon footprint. It's the goal of our green community status, which has brought us in hundreds of thousands of dollars, and thanks a great deal to Tom here. And in addition to the cost savings, I don't think we should lose sight of the fact that, we are still emitting great amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere through our usage of power, and anything that we can do to reduce that output and get to a renewable energy source and get off the fossil fuels is something that we feel is in the best interest of not only our town, but of the planet. So,
Thank you. Anybody else? Any further comments? Okay, so we are being asked tonight to grant you, I guess, some form of permission. I don't know that it's permission per se, but indicate our support of further
Indicate your
study.
support to go forward and come back with a more fleshed out plan.
Understanding that there are many layers of review, especially, I think, what Nora noted with the planning board. This wasn't posted as a public hearing, it is a public meeting, but it's not a public hearing process, which would be something you would have to go through. And who did you say, how far would the abutter notifications go?
So anyone who's an abutter or an abutter to an abutter within 300 feet of the
300
lot
feet.
that the solar panels be proposed on.
So Laura Lane would clearly? Manhattan
Certainly-
Street,
certainly
and then
the house is at the end of Laura Lane.
and houses on Manhattan in proximity within the 300 feet and their abutters. And then the station butters here and
And
et cetera.
there's also a street within Cedar Hill Estates that runs right along.
In the back.
Yeah,
That's
in
what
the
I
back.
was referring to.
Yeah,
Blue
Oh,
Jay.
Other
Blue
than
Jay.
Laura Lane?
other than Laura Lane, yes.
So
Yeah, Blue Jay.
the abutters list is drawn from the edges of the parcel.
Okay.
So that's a very large parcel, so it
Right.
would actually take in
Oh.
abutters that are anywhere abutting that parcel.
Very important.
You're on the other side of the property now from Laura Lane, though. You're on the, you've moved it all the way up Gay Street there to the far end. Originally, it was going to be down right off the end of Laura Lane. Now it's been totally moved to allow.
But nonetheless, they would
But
still get
nonetheless,
notified.
it's-
I believe it's a 36-acre parcel.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the whole
So
Shuttleworth
Sandy
parcel.
Valley Road down to
So it's-
Buckmaster.
Yeah.
It's not for
Buckmaster,
where the
sorry, Buckboard.
location of the array might be, but the whole parcel gets counted, is what Nora's saying.
The whole
Okay.
parcel will be pretty much developed as a result of the school process too, because the fields, everything else that are going to be added.
Mhm.
So there'll be, I'd say almost well over 50% of the existing acreage will be developed as a result of the new school.
Just remember, we don't know where a new school may be going,
No, we don't, yeah, no, that's true.
okay?
It's all
That is
speculation.
another discussion taking place over a long period of time. Okay, so,
I move that we permit Amoresco to proceed with the project development of the Phase 2 solar program for potential implementation of the proposed arrays at the Thurston Middle School, Council of Aging, Westwood Police Station, and the Shuttleworth Field area.
second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, that's a 2-to-1 vote, so please proceed, and we still have opportunities, I'm sure, to see other sites
Absolutely.
where you've installed, and I appreciate that you took the time
John,
to.
if you want to go visit anything, let me know.
I will.
Okay, thank you
And
very
it'll be
much.
brought back to the Board of Selectmen before you go forward with the planning board process, right?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, we do this primarily because if the town doesn't want it, we don't want to spend engineering dollars for not. That's-
Right.
All right.
Great, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Must be time for Phil.
our next agenda item, update on the town administrator search process. This is one of a couple of nights we've been waiting for. Oh, Joan, please do come over. No, that's okay. You've been very much a part of this. And we want you here again.
Five former, 2 formers and 3 present selectmen in the room.
It's a busy place tonight.
We almost to be outnumbered.
Yeah, almost.
Let me just do a little preamble, then I'll...
The Alumni Association.
So dating back to May, after town meeting, we learned that Mr. Gillette would be retiring, and he has graciously stayed on as we've gone through this search process for our next town administrator, and which we greatly appreciate. Tonight, we're here to learn who the finalists are that our screening committee, appointed by the Select Board, identified as finalists for us to consider. And then after tonight, we'll bring those finalists to town Wednesday and have a rigorous interview process here at another Select Board meeting Wednesday starting at 5 p.m. I'd say Wednesday evening, but we decided to start early so we could spend a fair amount of time with these candidates and get a good idea of who we have before us and what our options are. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Shapiro, former Select Board member or Selectman at the time, and who served as chair of the screening committee. And I'd like to note that we have Barbara Shea here, who was clerk to that committee. Thank you for being here tonight, Barbara. You're welcome to come up too if you'd like to. Okay. Okay, so I'll hand
Everybody
it
likes
over
the
to you,
back
Phil.
row.
Yes, everybody loves the back row. Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to be here, and I think you appointed an excellent committee. We worked very well together, and just for the record, I'm going to remind you of who you appointed: Julianne Bride, Marianne LeBlanc, Mike O'Hara, Emily Parks, Ellen Rawlings, Barbara Shea, and myself. And I will say that we had really good discussions, and people saw things differently. It was a very healthy discussion. We had some split votes particularly as we narrowed from 38 to 7 finalists. And I think different people that you put on this committee see the town's future a little bit differently from different perspectives, and I think you're to be commended. You did, I think, a really good job in filling out this committee, and I think we worked well together. Joan Murray and Linda Unger were really great in supporting us, and we had minutes, and we had locations and everything else. I think we even got sandwiches the last meeting.
Wow,
So
okay.
pretty good. And we had Community Paradigm Associates, Bernie Lynch, Sharon Flaherty, who's here with me now, and John Petrin, who was at each of the meetings. And they've got a world of experience, as you know, not just as managers at different communities, but also sort of having some perspective on Westwood and the things we were looking for, and knowing a little bit of history about a lot of these candidates, so that if there was something in somebody's resume, it was like, well, this person had a long history of working, long periods of time, and then there was one, and they would explain to us, there was an illness or something had happened, or they had run into a problem with, one or two political people in the town or whatever. But we had, very good and a lot of insight into people's history. So we had 2 public meetings, August 14th, where we elected the chair and the clerk and reviewed 38 applications and selected 7 candidates to interview. And then September 4th, where we spent the entire day interviewing the candidates. And we're bringing you 4 candidates today. I have no doubt that all 4 of them can do this position. Of course, not as well as Mike, but they can all do this.
Pay you to say that.
I got a piece of cake at the going away party now.
That's it.
Yeah. Don't disclose all the remuneration.
So I'm going to just go through the names of the candidates with their current or most recent positions, and a little bit more of the process, and then if you have questions, obviously, I'm happy to answer them. So Christopher Coleman, who is Assistant Town Manager in Needham. Pam Dukeman, who's Finance Director and Assistant Town Administrator here in Westwood. Melissa Goff, who is Deputy Town Administrator in the town of Brookline. And Carl Kilduff, who most recently, until this summer, there was a change in governor in Connecticut, but he was the Executive Director of the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority. His job previous to that was as Town Administrator in Darien, Connecticut. So they've all got experience in towns that have good reputations and are well managed, And for some of them, it's taking the next step. For others, it's not. But I think there's some really good choices for you, and I hope the process from here is easy on you. That someone's, comes forward head and shoulders above the others. So there's a report that Sharon's going to provide you that has the cover letter, resume, reference checks, and background information on each of the 4 candidates. I know your process is very timely, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank
And
you.
happy to answer any questions.
I'll just, before we do that, Sharon, do you have any comments you want to add as the consultant on this?
I'd just like to tell the board we appreciate being selected, that you did appoint an excellent committee. There was a lot of robust discussion and dialogue, so they didn't take this task lightly, and we're happy to bring forward these 4 very excellent candidates.
Thank you. And Joan? You're all set.
Ditto.
You're happy to. John, Michael, questions?
Joan's happy it's almost over.
No, I mean, I would first say thank you, and I do think it was a great committee. I think the only thing, Phil, that stings me a little bit is, a lot of people can do a job. I think for us, though, it's incumbent to find the best person for the job.
Yeah.
And so that's my hope
Yeah.
as we take it forward, and I know that you all worked hard to get to where you did. But I just want to be clear that, I hope that for the board's perspective, it's not about who can do a job, it's like really who's going to take us to the next level.
And I think, and this was, so there were 8 of us around the table talking about this, and it really gets you to really think about what's most important. Because these people all have different histories and strengths, experience, education, and depending upon what you think the need is for the next 32 years, but for the next period of time, that's the only reason I said they all can do the
No, I know what you're
job.
saying. I'm just
It's what you feel is most important going forward, and that could bring. I wouldn't be shocked if any one of the 4 was selected by you, because you're the people closest to what the town is doing, facing, and is going to need, and so you're the best equipped to really understand what the skill set is to take you to that next level. So I'll be tuning in and looking forward to the continuation of the process, and I am honored to have served. Appreciate it.
Michael?
So Joan, the timeline is, announce the 4 tonight. We'll interview them on Wednesday, and then for anyone who's watching, when are we scheduled to then have our ultimate decision?
I believe that is scheduled for Monday, September 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, I just want you to say it for everybody
Yeah,
else.
That was the one date we
At the regularly
hadn't put out.
scheduled time of 7:30.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think, I'm confident I speak for the board, and we're saying it in our own ways, but we do appreciate the work that the volunteers have done, that we called together to serve on a screening committee, and Community Paradigm, bringing your expertise and knowledge of candidates to the table and assisting us in this effort has been very, very helpful. And I'll say this now, and I will repeat it many times, we wouldn't have been able to get this far without Joan Murray.
Thank you.
So
It was a
Yeah,
group
and
effort. It was a
I
group
just want to
effort.
reiterate, they were volunteers who
Yeah.
spent an
And-
entire day interviewing 7 people
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
this, so thank you to
And
all
our,
of them.
our job as a board now is going to be to continue this teamwork, because I do consider it a real team effort. Many elements of the community coming together. The consultant interviewed our staff, top management, all of us. We had a community forum. The doors never closed to receiving input. I know I did all along the way. I'm sure my colleagues did. now the team, it narrows down. It's sort of the hourglass and it narrows down, and the three of us have to make the decision, and jointly we're going to make a decision. And I'm confident that jointly we'll come together and unify around a candidate that stands out in the process they're going to go through on Wednesday. And it will be rigorous. We expect a lot, and we defined early on the important things to us, reflecting on what we hear and see in the community. So this is when we get paid the big bucks as elected volunteers.
All those
Don't-
zeros.
wait,
I would just, I just,
Can you
I
stop?
think,
Don't say that, because people who don't know think we get paid money.
no, I do think sometimes in these elongated processes with many people, that looking back at the job description that we tortuously wrote and had many iterations, I think it would be helpful.
Will inform us.
Maybe for Wednesday to give that out again.
Yeah.
Because I think that was an aspirational document, and that contained what we wanted out
I
of this
agree.
process. And
Yeah.
so I don't want to get lost now in the who. I don't want to get lost in who the candidates are, but really what was our goal and what is the outcome we want.
So that will inform us. We had a description. I think Community Paradigm pulled all that information together for us.
Pulled was the word, right?
No, it's important. This is great work, and Wednesday will be very, very telling and very helpful as we then deliberate who we want to choose. So we'll leave it at that. I think we've covered what we need to tonight. Phil, Barbara, and the rest of the committee members, thank you again. Very important work you did for us.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll convene Wednesday night.
5
Will
o'clock.
you be here, or will your colleagues, or who's going to join us?
One or all of us
One
will
or
be
all of
there.
you. Well, we look forward to one or all of you Wednesday night, and it will be
Probably
fine,
at least
fine
two.
television viewing. Again, it's going to start at 5 o'clock, so thanks, appreciate it. Okay, we don't have much left. I think we just
Dinner and a
have
movie.
an appointment or two.
That's so they can have dinner and a movie.
Oh,
Thank you.
the important, the hot document.
Yes.
Thank you.
Possibly
Thank
re-app,
you.
I don't know.
Okay.
Re-app tonight.
We have two committees that we are going to revisit tonight for appointments or reappointments, and it's the Planning Board requesting that members be appointed to a member to the Pedestrian Bike Safety Committee, and then also to the Regional Transportation Advisory Council. I think it was the second one that was on my mind that I thought I heard noted that we didn't have anybody. So Brian Gorman is recommended to serve as a member of the Pedestrian Bike Safety Committee, and Dave Atkins, and the Regional Transportation Advisory Council, so he would be the prime member, and then Dave Atkins as the alternate member to the Regional Transportation Advisory Council. Any discussion or questions? Nora's here if we have any.
No.
Okay.
I move that we approve Brian Gorman for both the Pedestrian and Bike Safety Committee.
Why don't you do that one first, because I think the
Okay.
term is important. I don't know, maybe it isn't.
So,
Go to
to
page
go
55.
To a term to end on June 30th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none?
I
Okay.
move that we appoint Brian Gorman as the member and Dave Atkins as the associate member of the Regional Transportation Advisory Council for a term to expire on June 30th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, none. Okay.
And did you
That's
say
it.
something about
I don't know if
REACT?
she wants to look at any more. Do you want to look at any more tonight?
Nope, because I didn't
Okay.
consider it beforehand, so.
Okay.
Next Monday, okay? Yeah, we didn't have anything else on our agenda to cover tonight. Did we? Am I missing something?
We have
No.
Approval of minutes?
Yeah, we have
Oh,
minutes
minutes.
from September
10th.
10th. Right on top of those minutes.
are
They were
right
sent
on
to
top of
us.
those, Trish.
Do you have
Okay.
copies of them?
I do.
Okay, why don't we just,
Well, I sent them to all of you, too.
you did.
You did,
Okay.
yes.
You did. I just want to, if you went to the trouble of printing them, let's just have a look. Not in public comment yet. Hold on. We're doing minutes. Okay. I'm fine with the minutes.
Yeah, I already had a chance to read them already.
You did, all of you
I
did.
did. Everybody good?
I am.
Okay. I move that we approve the minutes of July 10th, 2019, consisting of 7 pages.
September 10th.
What did I say? All right.
Said July.
Oh,
Let's
sorry.
skip back.
I'd like to go back to July, but it's September. Approve the minutes of September 10th, 2019, consisting of 7 pages, as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Mike, was there an expectation? Should I be doing that appointment tonight?
No. it would- Ms.
Okay.
Boynton would do it.
Claire's here thinking she was,
We didn't bring it forward, and it was our fault.
does that preclude us from?
Doesn't preclude you from doing it, no.
Because it's a-
Since
yeah,
she's
it's
going
an
to the
appointment.
trouble of being here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it just wasn't in our materials to do that tonight, but there's no problem with us
There's
doing
no
that?
problem with doing it.
To end when?
2022.
Okay.
You gave an indication at that meeting that you would take it up in a month, and you
Okay.
encouraged that additional people come forward and have, and there are 2 slots left.
Mm-hmm, okay, thank you.
I move that we approve Claire Galkowski to the Westwood Environmental Action Committee for a term to end on June 30th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay, Claire, thank you. All right, we have any other business coming before the board? No other business. Public and press? No. So again, our next meeting will be 2 days from now at 5 p.m. here in the police station, when we will conduct interviews of our 4 finalist candidates for town administrator. And that will conclude our meeting. Motion to adjourn?
Oh, so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.